Hello, and welcome to Virtually Anywhere with the Library District. My name is Christy from the West Charleston Library, and today I'm excited to share this harp demonstration with Lynne Aryeh Frankfurter.
My name is Lynne.
And my name is Aryeh Frankfurter.
And we're here to tell you about our various instruments that we use in our concerts and we tour around with. And we're going to start with these instruments here. These are the traditional Celtic or folk harp. You can call it an Irish harp, you can call it a lever harp, but they are folk instruments intended to play folk music. These harps are the ancestors. They were here earlier before the big golden pedal harps that most people are used to seeing in the orchestras. They're made of all wood. They come in all different sizes. We have small ones that sit on the lap, but this is a very full-size traditional folk harp. It hollow inside. This one weighs about 21 pounds. Mine has 34 strings. Aryeh has 36 strings, but it's actually lighter with a lighter wood, but they can be made of all different kinds of woods. They have a very soft and gentle tone to it, and they were commonly played in Ireland in the 16th century. They dropped out for a few centuries and then became popular again around the 70s.
Originally, these harps actually date back in Ireland a long time, even back to the 9th and 10th century. Back then, they weren't strung with gut or nylon strings, of course, but with wire. You would actually see brass, silver, or gold might even be strung. And they had a very different sound than the harps we're used to. It almost sounds like bells. This instrument was the national instrument of Ireland. You saw it on flags, on coins. And because of that relationship to their culture, it's a very important instrument. You also see it, of course, similar instruments in Scotland, in Wales, and of course on the continent and so forth, in Spain and France. These levers here actually allow us to sharpen and change the key, but we have to do it manually. In the large golden pedal harps, you have pedals which allow the musician to change keys automatically by using their feet, and they have a lot of mechanisms inside the harp in order to do that. We actually change the tone or pitch manually with these levers, and that's why it's called a lever harp, and it allows us to do accidentals.
This instrument has become so popular in recent decades that they're pretty readily available. This harp was made in California. Aryeh's harp was made in Oregon.
Yep.
But you can get them all kinds of places. There's so many makers. There's harp conferences you can go to learn all different kinds of styles of music, and teachers gather and concerts and jam sessions. There's several of those available a year. We teach them sometimes. And there you can see all kinds of harps and harp makers. You can get lessons on video, on YouTube. It's not too hard to find a teacher, especially in the bigger cities. And they're played in rock bands and salsa bands, and all kinds of different styles of music can be played on this instrument, and it's just really a lot of fun to play.
Well, the instrument I have here is called a Nyckelharpa, and the word is spelled as follows. It's spelled Nyckelharpa. And it's a weird word, and I sometimes I say it with a weird accent, Nyckelharpa, because this instrument comes from Sweden, And the word nyckel, Nyckel, means key or keyed in Swedish. And it has the word harp in its name, but it's not a harp because it's played with a bow. It's actually more like a violin or fiddle. On the side of the instrument, on the neck, there are these rows of buttons or keys. That's why it's called a Nyckelharpa, because of these keys on the side of the instrument. And coming up through the strings, you can see these wooden pegs or wooden dowels along the side here. And drilled into each one of these keys is one of these wooden pegs, so that when I tap on the key, any one of these keys, that wooden dowel is going to hit a string and it's going to shorten it, making a different note. When we play an instrument like a violin or a guitar, we press down on the string with our finger and we shorten the string, making different notes. On this instrument, it's a little different, is I'm actually tapping these keys to make different notes instead of putting my finger directly on the string. Some people have said that this is one of the earliest musical typewriters because it has the same function. A little humorous there. One of the interesting things, you can also see that coming along, there's a lot of strings. The instrument has a total of 16 strings. And I don't actually bow or play all 16 strings. I'm only bowing 4, just like a regular violin, viola, or cello. But you'll see that there's other strings lying underneath, and these strings that lie underneath play all by themselves. These are called sympathetic strings. And it's based on pure physics. If I bow or play a played note, and there's a sympathetic string tuned to the note that I'm playing, that sympathetic string will start to resonate all by itself. So I'll demonstrate. I'll play a single note here. And you can hear that ringing. And there we go. You can hear the ringing of the string right there. So those are sympathetic strings that are doing that job. And because it is a chromatic instrument, which means it can play all 12 tones in a Western chromatic scale, it has one sympathetic string for each of the notes that we can play on the instrument. Kind of gives this instrument a very haunting and ethereal sound to it. So the instrument has a history that goes back a long time in Sweden. It dates back at least to the mid-1300s. There is a church in Sweden that depicts an angel playing something that looks like a Nyckelharpa, and there is a date right underneath that angel dated 1350. So we know the instrument goes back in Sweden at least to that period of time, and probably back a little bit farther. And it probably existed throughout Europe, played throughout different countries, Germany and France, and what we know as those countries, and may have come over actually originally from India. The reason why it's considered a Swedish instrument is that although it may have existed in these other countries, it's only in Sweden that it's had a living tradition for the past 600 or so years, only in that country. And because of that connection to Sweden, and only Sweden, is considered a Swedish instrument. So it's a very old instrument, and they are still making these instruments today. In fact, this one was built in 2016. I have another one that was built in 2012. They're becoming more and more popular, and they're making their way into popular music. I see a lot of rock bands using them nowadays. The only instrument it's related to or considered related to is the hurdy-gurdy, which is very similar to this instrument, but instead of bowing it, you have a sort of a wheel and a crank, and you have the same thing, these keys, which actually make the notes instead of putting your finger directly on the string. So that's the Swedish Nyckelharpa.
This instrument is called a Cittern, Cittern. This goes back a ways. It was made popular from the 16th to 18th century in England. It's kind of a hybrid between a guitar and a mandolin type instrument. It's tuned in open tuning. It has 10 strings, tuned in an open tuning, which means all of the strings are harmonious together in one key or one chord. When I play it, I play with a capo for different keys, moving it around the neck here. And it is commonly played in Irish and Swedish music. It had a resurgence around the 50s, became popular once again. It's very popular for folk music.
Thank you for joining with us today. If you'd like to see more of our amazing library programs, now available anytime, anywhere, please be sure to hit the subscribe button or visit our website at thelibrarydistrict.org.